So, Avengers Age of Ultron. Funny story. It's the second time I've watched it. I remember I saw it in theaters, like, when it was in its initial release. I saw, like, the last half hour or so of it just a few months ago when I was on my honeymoon. Came on HBO, I think. But I've never sat down and watched it all again. And it's one of those things I've always meant to, but one reason or another, just one, I didn't own it, and two, I just didn't really feel the need because I didn't love this movie. It's funny, Steve, being a really good friend, doing his 2.5 hour video. I don't know what I'm gonna have to say that he hasn't, but like, I had a really disjointed relationship with this movie when it came out. For me, I was like, it's all right. It's okay. It's got some interesting stuff. I was a little caught up on some of the particular details of the plot here and there that I thought were a bit of a stretch or unnecessary. Like, one thing that I've kind of never really gotten over is there's literally no reason for him to keep Black Widow alive, yet he does. And I remember the argument I heard for that was, well, he gets lonely. He straight tells her that he is lonely, and I'm like, yeah, that's great and all, but then he doesn't talk to her. He has one scene with her after he keeps her alive, and then just leaves her alone. And so that always felt weird. I really feel like Ultron's motivations changed left and right, and I really did not. I never really dug the plan that he had, the extinction event that he was trying to pull off, because I just don't feel like I can be generous enough to say that that's something that promotes humanity to change. That just ends humanity, right? Maybe something's left that he can then shape, but I don't know. Age of Ultron sounds more like a fascistic rule to me, but those things I don't think are necessarily solved by this viewing, but they are mitigated. Now that I'm just used to them, I can kind of look past them and get into some of the meatier stuff here. And there's a lot of good about this movie, I really gotta admit. There's a lot going on. And I think the heart of the movie really is the barn scene with Hawkeye and his family, because it really shows you what they're fighting for. It's like such the most idyllic little life, just a bunch of family living together on a farm, taking care of themselves, kind of thing. It is, it's that dream kind of life thing. It's the beauty of simplicity, the simple life, right? And that is a really good thing because it gives all the characters a lot of motivation. I also really like the way that Whedon has these characters broken down completely. It's that classic thing that really, really great mythic stories do, which is to break a character down till rock bottom and then build them back up stronger. And I feel like that really, really works here. The fight between Iron Man and Hulk is a really good example of that, because at that point, they're all at each other's throats, and they continue to have a lot of tension after that, but they work it out for the most part by the time they get off of the farm. But that fight is like, it's a really cool comic book fight, but it's more than that to me. It really works to establish the relationships between the characters and show that, they can't stand each other. They're only working together because they're just the team that's needed. With Avengers being this thing of, okay, we have all these extreme personalities, now let's put them together. Of course they're going to bicker and they're going to fight. And that's what happens, but at the end of the day, they were able to come together because they had a job to do. This, it still clearly has that job to do, but they're able to come together and get much, much closer in this film, which I really, really appreciate. And it's interesting to see how that is the cohesion of the team is threatened in Civil War in a very different way. What's that classic phrase? Trust takes time to build, but is easily destroyed. And so I really, really like the way this works. They learn really who who one another are, what by like exploring their deepest fears. And I think it's interesting to introduce Scarlet Witch to facilitate that, to literalize their fears. Like, I really, really like how Scarlet Witch kind of twists Thor's mind and makes him realize he's afraid of destroying his people, because that is a character arc that's satisfied, or that's believable. That is a fear for the character that's believable in the previous two Thor movies. I like that Steve is still obsessed with his past, and then the moment in his vision that I really, really enjoyed is everyone disappears and he's left alone in this old style ballroom. And that's like really, really on point, because that's what Steve Rogers was. He was this guy who was going to have this nice, happy life in his time, and then in an instant, as from his perspective, it was all taken away from him, and now he's just more or less alone. Tony's fear of letting everyone down, not being able to save the world, is really, really interesting, and that carries over from Iron Man 3. I'm not sure if the scene in Iron Man, or in Avengers, if Tony's motivation here in Age of Ultron is is compromising his character arc from Iron Man 3. I know Steve and a bunch of my other friends that like both movies have said it's not, but I can see where that criticism comes from, most certainly, and I don't know if I really have a ready defense for it, because his lesson in Iron Man 3 is to learn not to overanalyze, not to overthink, not to prepare for every eventuality, because then you're not going to live a life. Here, it still looks like he's overanalyzing, overthinking, still preparing for every eventuality. Just trying to do it with one fell swoop instead. And he learns a lesson by the end of this, so I don't know, I'm a little on the fence about that side of it. I'm not sure what the justification for it's not retroactive, because I feel like it might just be the same lesson. It's just since audiences didn't react super positively to Iron Man 3, they felt the need to redo this lesson in a more general way, though to be fair, audiences didn't react overwhelmingly to Age of Ultron. 1 second. Oh, there's no second end credits. I had this weird thing doing these since I'm like planning to do them around the credits, and I'm trying to remember, is there 2 end credits for this movie or just 1? I don't know what I'm going to do by the time I get to Phase 3 and I got Guardians 2 to deal with its 700 end credit scenes. So, ultimately though, Age of Ultron is a really interesting film, and while I will admit that I don't think all of its problems are solved or anything, I think it does a lot more right than it does wrong, which is just a really important thing for a film to do. So that'll do it for my thoughts for Age of Ultron, and now we're going to go talk about Ant-Man, which by no means should be in Phase 2, so stay tuned for that.